In case of point, I always have to adjust the sound, both from the desktop, from my headphones, and the mic. Well, anywho. Alright, check here, check here. All the screens are all good. Gotta hydrate. Always hydrate. That was interesting. Let me hold this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, still does it. However, less so when I actually have it around here to my left, so it would be to the right of the screen. But anywho, another thing I also got to do is let me actually check. Alright, I have the chat around here. It's supposed to be present, so let me type in something. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't appear. What a shame. Let me actually see what's up. My guess is that it's underneath here. Okay. I believe that fixed that, so got it chest again. There you go. It's all about just tinkering stuff. But for any other messages, oh, sorry that I couldn't get through there. But you know, these things tend to occur. I'm gonna actually change it. Elizabeth session. Okay, that's cool. Alrighty. That's 3, all that. Other than that, it should all be good. To further ado, I'm just gonna summarize the interview. Well, anyhow, I'll keep in mind in OBS on the chat along with the emotes grouped here. So, yeah, inventory of the commentary. We went through pretty much a person's decision, along with some controversies relating to the people, with inspiration of why continuing to go along with this. Well, anywho, we also have comments, so I will go through there. But what I want to tackle, because I haven't tackled that last time, is the update to see what else they have changed since this interview. What have they retracted? Update March 8th. Nearly a month after his interview with Polygon, and in the wake of controversy over the publisher's comments, the 6 Days of Fallujah Twitter account issued a statement that appears to walk back some of the statements made by publisher Peter Temte. In it, the 6 Days in Fallujah team now says that the events depicted in the game are inseparable from politics. Inseparable. Inseparable. It's the PA in the middle between SE and RI. Always just gets confused. But, anyhow, are inseparable from politics. Let's go to the statement if they have it here. Twitter. Okay. We understand the events we created in 6 Days of Fallujah are inseparable from politics. Let me see if in the tweet is the same. This one. Okay. Yep. Okay, yeah, I already perused it. It's pretty much exactly the same. I should try to read. Okay, yeah, it's right here. Okay, let me just read it. Like this article, besides the tweet. Yeah, let's just go with that. We. Oh yeah, and since it's pretty much them tweeting out, let me just do my voice. Let's go with the deep voice. We understand the events recreated in 6 Days of Fallujah are inseparable from politics. Here's how the game gives voice to a variety of perspectives. And I'm going to interchange it so I can practice more on those two voices because I'm having a sense of how I can replicate the voice without ease. Well, without much frustration, and I can do it at ease. The story in 6 Days of Fallujah are told through gameplay and documentary footage featuring service members and civilians with diverse experiences and opinions about the Iraq War. So far, 25 Iraqi civilians and dozens of service members have shared the most difficult moment of their lives with us. So we can share them with you in their words. The documentary segments discuss many tough topics, including the events and political decisions that led to the Fallujah battles, as well as their aftermath. While we do not allow players to use white phosphorus as a weapon during gameplay, its use is described during the documentary segments. Alright, let me finish this. During gameplay, players will participate in stories that are given context through the documentary segments. Each mission challenges players to solve real military and civilian scenarios from the battle interactively, offering a perspective from into urban warfare not possible through any other media. We believe in the stories of this generation's sacrifice deserve to be told by the Marines, soldiers, and civilians who were there. We trust we'll find the game like the events Eric plates. It recreates to be complex. Recreates. 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 Man, the TES in the end recreates sure ruin a bit of the accent, but good practice makes perfect quality on work. We understand the events recreated in 6 Days of Fallujah are inseparable from politics. Victoria and Victoria JJ March 8, 2021. So yeah, this was weeks after the so-called backlash. The article says controversy, so but yeah. Not much of a backlash compared to what they experienced before, but time will say how it goes. But something I do want to point out is now they also reaffirm about the documentary segments. Well, I think I should just go through each paragraph. Yeah, using allows people to use white phosphorus. So it means Spec Ops: The Line and other video games do that. So it's just going to showcase it. I do wonder if it is going to not be part of the gameplay, but part of the campaign scenarios relating to environment building. That's a thing. Like there's along with the documentary segments. The way I keep on thinking about it is like True Detective, and I believe in video game form it will be Mafia 3. Even though how the game is just not. I wouldn't say infamous. It's more like just not really famed because of freaking its repetitive gameplay loops not being that invigorating, along with its narrative story, just taking a backdrop after the first initial few hours, which was just fantastic. And but it was just so bogged down with pretty much just the Ubisoft open world gameplay of just conquering some territory and repeating doing those activities, but not doing a well off job due to lack of side activities along with the open world of New Orleans. But, you know, that's pretty much it. I am one to talk about the documentary segments where you had 3 characters who narrate in a documentary form to a cameraman on, except one, it was one like a court case with one of the infamous characters in the story. It was actually one of the favorites that they talk about it. They showcase it as a, you know, true detective miniature documentary of them showing their lives, talking about the person, their character, Lincoln Clay, which is interesting, you know. First name related to Abraham Lincoln, and Clay referring to Muhammad Ali's nickname while he was active in boxing. Especially when it comes to the African American community and some fans. That is great symbolism in how they narrate someone as a figure rather than an individual, which I find that very interesting, and I wonder if they're going to actually take place that, because it's a documentary format. This is what I naturally keep on thinking about, because I just talk about True Detective. Don't talk much about it because I haven't watched the show. Want to watch it with family. It does showcase well, I might as well talk about Mafia 3. It does showcase a figure of someone who did some things in history. You know, that's the thing about old historical figures. They later become figures due to their legacy and their reputation, along with a lot of other factors that are not really displayed. Their inner thoughts can be just because they usually don't keep personal records, personal log on their thoughts, like in a daily diary, compared to like some individuals, or they just don't focus on it because sometimes documentaries have their own presentation of what they want to put. And yeah, you know, that's the way I look at Mafia 3 in the gameplay stance of how it can have an immersion of the player doing all these acts, except in cutscenes where he does have a character, and the cutscenes were actually pretty beautiful in how they actually go back into the documentary form to the character that happened in real time. It shows a contrast, and it does show the difference between the historical figure of him being an infamous madman who was taking off the mafia. I'm just talking about Mafia 3 most of the time. God, I really, really want the game to be so much better in its parts, like original Mafia and Mafia 2. But then again, Mafia 1 was great because of its gameplay stance, and even now it has to do with how historically it's a prohibition game, which not many of this exist. So it's a refresher in open world games where you actually get to deal in 1920s urban crime thrill life, either as a, especially if you're a Chicagoan or New Yorker, you really find a connection. Or if you like American history and customs like me. But who it does showcase how maybe that's the reason why they wanted to do the documentary segments. I'm just putting in matters where if they want to actually put the real deal on of people in a documentary, they have to deal with some issues that documentarians have when it comes to try to not uh, ex- exploit the work of it. I mean, some of the most infamous documentaries have to do with propagandas. They later become documentaries due to how historically it becomes the past. So the camping aesthetic, people find that appealing because humor is just different compared to what it is now, along with how it's can get a lot out of the production of design in the time period just because you don't have many historical pieces like that, so people tend to look at old media as historical pieces as themselves. I mean, that's a big reason why um, Taxi Driver is really popular because Jesus, that's pretty much New York nighttime and night scene is just its own character. You can tell the difference between New York during the nighttime versus New York in the daytime. There's a huge contrast, and it shows in his cinematography, along with the soundtrack. It's wonderful, and that shows you value on how they can convey something. So I do wonder about 6 Days of Fallujah. How, if they wanted to look at it as a documentary segments, how are they going to delicately go through that? And it's a shame that they're not talking about that as a controversy. Um, it's possible that they're probably just pursuing it just to showcase a sort of respectfulness from an older media that a lot of people have um, authority to, but there's also some bad history, and that can actually turn sour. It could be a detriment. And that is what I do want to see more when it comes to the campaign. Because now it seems like it's the campaign itself, not the multiplayer and not the gameplay, sadly. Definitely proved me wrong with showcase more gameplay and talking more about it. It referred to it before how the gameplay is going to actually be the factor on people's emotions and how the experiences of fighters, both from the coalition and enemy combatants, along with the civilians, two separate factions, one being hostile and one not being hostile, dealing with on the campaign and how it resembles in the gameplay loop. And yeah, that's what I do want to see. Documentary style, the campaign, and gameplay loop. Other than that, that's pretty much just the second paragraph here. The first one just talks about, so far 25 Iraqi civilians and dozen service member has shared the most difficult moment of their lives with us, so we can share them with you in their words. Definitely want to see more backdrop on these people giving interviews. They did that last time, around pretty much 2009. And with the Iraqi civilians, it will definitely put a stomp into people saying that it's pretty biased. Granted, there will be some issues, but it wouldn't be much of an entire cluster of issues rather than just a few if they actually do stomp at the claims where people are just looking at one point of view rather than the other point of view. Pretty much the people impacted directly and indirectly. Indirectly would be when it comes to audiences that are not around the region, and directly would be people around the region. Because the truth is, this is not just a story when it comes to Iraqi civilians, the people, but also when it came to the Middle East, um, especially when it comes to Arabs around the region, because good God, they pretty much have a history to be told. The early 2000s is not a swell time, along with some current issues that are occurring around the region, i.e., pretty much the issues with open conflict in Syria, Iraq, and down south to Oman. It does showcase a tension that people have stories to tell. They have something to say, and with today being so interconnected that people can have a voice, yeah, I mean that's the current thing when it comes to many Afghan people compared to them actually not having much of a voice when it came to the 2001, when it came to occupation of the Taliban, such, till now where they pretty much can share their voices and stuff. I even saw a video of a guy who's taking a tour to Afghanistan, and it was fascinating. It does showcase that people are pretty interconnected, and people are starting to have new views towards everything. Changing times, pretty much, since, what is it? That's like almost 20 years ago, 2001. Brings perspective and how the world can change. Anywho, third paragraph. During gameplay, players will participate in stories that are given context to its documentary segments. Each mission challenges players to solve real military and civilian scenarios from the battle interactively, offering a perspective into urban warfare not possible through any other media. The beauty of gameplay in a video game, it showcases how a person, the user, the player, would interact and how they will feel while playing the game. That is the beauty of immersion in video games and how they can convey that. Like I mentioned before from last stream, yeah, that's it could show you how much you can be a dick or not a dick. Same as Undertale. Even though that, you have the many choices, people can choose to do something that is easier for them. That's the thing when it comes to most games, like Bioshock, for example. It's not really hard to go to either side. They're both equally worth it depending on some small issues, but it's not a big consequence that you will be discouraged to not follow it. And that's the thing with trying to make choices, taking the easiest choice versus the hard choice. And many games try to do that with a morality system as a consequence, but it doesn't work, because then pretty much not going to the whole ethics and moralities, and people have different moral standards, and usually people who will create video games don't really have a doctorates when it comes to ethical study. But as a show with, well, what can you get out of it? Something tangible in the game and such. After all, some people usually would just do the evil playthrough route just to get achievements. That's a part of it, but also other things just to stream it, record it, talk about it. Those are the reasons. But not while you're playing it and just to make the game easier or harder, challenging for yourself. So yeah, I'm interested with that. We believe the stories of this generation's sacrifice deserve to be told by the Marines, soldiers, and civilians who were there. Yeah, because now that the 20-year mark is coming, people really didn't know the situation in the 2000s when it came to the war on terror around the globe and many of its controversies and stuff, especially with the whole camp of trying to defile it or romanticize it. This will definitely showcase a historical piece onto a world that was a bit different, even though we could see the aftermath of what it is today. Don't the civilians deserve their stories to be told if they didn't have much of their stories being told back then? It is the reason why historical pieces tend to be revived for to showcase things that weren't showcased before. It brings the meaning of why having a certain setting brings something to the table for audiences. We trust you to find the game, like the events it recreates, to be complex. We understand the events recreated in 6 Days Fallujah are inseparable from politics. I definitely love the stance of they pretty much put, where, and pretty much the cynical me and just things that they're trying to just probe, test the waters to see how controversial people will be from one point of view to another. But yeah, now this actually does show that this is a game that's going to be talking about politics, and it's going to talk about complex matters that they don't really understand, but hopefully people will understand and talk about it. I definitely want them to actually go more into that route where they want people to actually talk about it, good and bad. But I also want them to showcase the soldiers' backstories, a lot of the behind the scenes of this game and such. But granted, also on my end, I just want to know more about the game and reasons why, especially with me thinking of Tamti's comment on him being inspired to create this game right around the 2000s, and wonder if he was actually inspired with wanting to tell the story when it comes to the war on terror, the situation when it comes to foreign affairs around the 90s, or when it comes to spring of terrorism around the 70s onwards, that showcases a lot of things that maybe I'm asking too much, but that's why I wanted to address. I am interested in it, and I do want to ask them. I am eager to listen. Like these comments, Lambo, come on, man. You could maybe pass off this bullshit in 2006. Maybe it's 2001. It's a video game about the Iraq War. If you don't have a political statement otherwise in the game, then your statement is the conquest of Iraq wars. No, Iraq was unleveled legitimate, and the U.S. soldiers are protagonists in this narrative. What a shit show. This was the 15th, so not from the comment from March. But yeah, people have stories. I'm gonna peruse through this and, you know, talk out loud of some things about it. I'm actually looking at the targeted date, so I actually do want to read comments with both these dates, because, yeah. But sadly, it does look like, yeah, there actually is no change of date. Maybe this does show the importance of re-rating articles if they be updated. They don't showcase in the titles because they will tend to like ruin the article meaning if people actually wanted to see, okay, which one's the newest version or not. But anyhow, okay, there's comments here. Not to mention the insane logic that by removing the most controversial elements of the war, why phosphorus? Okay. Yeah, according to this guy's statement, interpreted totally impartially, it is willfully engaged in war crime denial. It presents a narrative of the Second Battle of War, which willfully does not contain the use of white phosphorus as a weapon. This goes to the comment of him saying that it's not the political manner as such, but they address that later. Time it sounds utterly spineless. Everyone games war is political. Yep. Even though, as a thing, people say that every war film is anti-war. but that's going into the film realm. But yeah, it'll showcase a theming. It's something that people tend to believe, because it usually correlates with something else around the new year. Simply amazing. I have a very small hope that it will turn out to be a Spec Ops in line kind of game, but apparently it's going for the Modern Warfare 29 political argument. It sure seems to be Go America. This is Fallujah now trying to make a political commentary. I straight up do not understand the game 16 and why it still exists. Going so well for one, so that cannot be a main motivator. Okay, that's pretty much good. Because it does showcase why it exists before when it came to me reading 2009 articles. And, that's the difference between some people understanding the whole context and background, along with more info about something versus what an article states, especially an old article that later has become updated. Observing to the date, he's going on to what the information was learned. I'm going off to information that I also learned from this updated thing, which does showcase the update and tweeting out things they want to go with. They're going to the political route, something different than a lot of people say, and I do want to hear out more what they talk about. Anywho, it's much good. Other than that, Noha.